Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Maggard.
Dalton Phillips.
Obviously, coming back after another week of college football. Obviously, some big changes for a couple teams. The first two teams we'll talk about, obviously, going to be the biggest storyline in college football this week because there's some rules that come along with this that we'll talk about in just a second. But obviously, if you guys are tuning in again, would love you to stick around like you have been. Leave a like, subscribe, comment. It helps a ton. But also, if you're new, stick around. We'll be posting our picks come out on Thursdays, usually around 7, 8 o'clock, and that's just what we do each and every week is an analysis after the games that picks on Thursdays. So stick around for it and tune in every week. But Dalton, we're going to dive into the first game here. This is obviously something you like to see because Nico Iamaleava he's down in the dumps right now, and this is another poor game from him. Last week they lost because their team played horrible and he played pretty good, and there was just really nothing they could do about it. But this one, he comes out and plays bad yet again. Does have the interception, only has the 200 passing yards. They don't have a run game once again, kind of the issue they've had all year. And part of that being they got blown out at home by New Mexico, who, again, not a bad New Mexico Lobos team. But just like we'll talk about in a second with another power school, who you guys know who I'm talking about, you can't lose these games. And this is a non-power school coming into your place and beating you by 25 when you have a five-star quarterback and a receiver in Matthews, who's another high level guy that transfers in and should be that level of talent that you should just outmatch them. And Mikey Matthews and Nico are unable to do so. And on the other side for New Mexico, this team has again showed time and time again this year that they can compete. They're not going to be probably the USFs of the world. They're not going to be the Boise of last year where they're going to come up there and be in the contention for, making a playoff spot. But this is a scary team that can go, win maybe 7, 8 games and be a pretty scary competition in a bowl game for somebody. And the running back, obviously, big story here. Bankston goes 154 on 15 carries and a touchdown. An incredible game from him. He's able to just kind of control the game. And then obviously their quarterback plays really well. 12 for 16, two touchdowns. Really no mistakes from them. And that's why they're able to just kind of pull away with this one. Dalton, what are your comments here?
Yeah, Nico really messed up. He
Yeah.
did. I don't understand.
And again, the big story, like I said before I started, Deshaun Foster is fired in his second season as the head coach of UCLA. Really quick to pull the trigger on that. He does leave after an 0-3 start. Like I said, two teams starting like that, making those decisions. You'll know who we're talking about in just a second. But that decision sparks what is a transfer portal window that now opens for the next 30 days. And that being the single most important moment coming out of this is what will happen with UCLA. What players will take transfer portal visits during that 30-day period? What players will put red shirts on and take and just end their season right now and not lose their year of eligibility? Because unless they're committed to whoever the OCDC is that takes over as the interim, I'm not sure who they listed. Why would they stay there and play? They know the season's over for them. They've not even made it to Big Ten play, and they're awful. So it is a situation where they're going to lose players. There's going to be guys that are in their starting lineup that will hit the portal. And it might not be a big, huge max exodus of all these players, but you're going to lose at least some starters, you would think, and definitely some depth guys that weren't going to play anyways, because they're going to take their red shirts and go play somewhere else. That being the biggest story coming out of this one, and UCLA, again, goes down at home 35-10 to the New Mexico Lobos. Moving into our next game, of course, this is the other one I'm talking about when I say things change. And it's you go out and you go get destroyed in the first half, 28-0. I think a lot of Tech fans saw that this could happen, not the 28-0, but losing this game because Prize lost the locker room completely. It was kind of evident in the last, 4 quarters we played in a row. We got outscored 64-0. 34 from Vanderbilt, 28 from ODU in those 4 quarters. So the locker room is completely gone. They're not with the coach anymore. I don't even know if they're really with the rest of the staff either. We'll see what happens in coming weeks. But you don't go out and perform at any level. Not even you didn't even try in the first half. It didn't look like it was constantly just sloppy football, penalties, letting them just run it up and down the field. If it wasn't for one turnover we forced on them, and I think they punted once, they scored every other drive in the first half, and it looked really easy. And I will say, all props to ODU. This is not just saying that our team didn't show up. It's that ODU did show up, and they were well coached, and they were prepared for this situation. Colton Joseph is legit. This kid will be playing anywhere else in the country he wants to go play next year. There's going to be a lot of teams that have openings that will look at this kid and say he's got that dynamic ability that they really want at the next level. And again, 8 for 63 on the ground with a touchdown, multiple times where he was pulling it and making big plays. But they didn't even have to use his legs in this one because they had the running back going, 13 for 101, and him in a passing game. I mean, if you haven't watched this game, and then this is me coming from a Tech fan who it sucked being there in attendance. If you haven't watched this game, go watch this kid throw the ball. He is unreal. Like he was throwing beautiful passes. I mean, that's what comes with a 96.1 QBR as well. So incredible performance from Colin Joseph. Really good performance from the rest of their team as well. And then on the other side for Tech, of course, Drones plays statistically one of his better games of the year. Throws a terrible pick though. Has a really bad fumble on the goal line on the 3 yard line, and that was when the game was still in your control. I think it may have been 14-0 or 7-0. So you were still in it at that point. It wasn't like the team had given up yet. He runs the ball really like relatively well, other than the fumble. But if you watched the game, you would know he was very timid. Again, not making plays. Missing open routes, and a lot of these stats in the passing game specifically came in this fourth quarter where they were playing more lax defense, and he was able to throw underneath a couple times for big completions. And again, Donovan Green, pretty much the sole contributor of those yards he was passing out. Terrion Stewart looked really, really good in this game. This is a guy that if we'd have had for the last 2 weeks, maybe the team wouldn't be so down in the dumps, and maybe it wouldn't have turned out the way it did. But he wasn't healthy, and in his 8 carries, he goes for 55 yards and averages 7 per carry. Again, this guy looked legit. Marcellus Hawkins, again, I think he has shown some flashes of potential. Would love to see him stick around for next year's team. Probably not going to happen. Again, this coaching staff is going to change big time. But again, you see a first touchdown in Tyler Mason's career coming in through the air, which was going to be a big one for him. Of course, he was a former really highly touted guy out of North Carolina. But realistically, this is a poor performance. Probably you could argue it's the all-time low. I don't know if it is, but there is a real argument that it is at home against Old Dominion. Dalton, what's your opinions on this one?
I mean, this is just a terrible loss. It really is. And I mean, and this it's not like this ODU team's not good. I mean, I like this ODU team a lot, and it's just like you can't do this as if you're trying to compete in the ACC or if you're just trying to compete. If you're trying to make a bowl game, you can't do
Yeah, in
this.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, because once you go start out 0-3, your team's just you're in the dumps.
Yep.
I've been there, and you just don't feel like playing anymore. And if I'm these guys, I'm getting out of there. I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, again, the same situation obviously available to
Yeah,
these players, 0-3, but that doesn't even matter the record wise. It's just the 30 days opens when the coaches
yeah. So I'm saying I would get out of there.
you get that
That's
opportunity. I think that truthfully, there is some guys that will do it. The older players, they're not going to because they're on their last years and have already burned their red shirts. So guys like Drones and Stewart, who are beyond the point of being able to do that, they will stick around, of course. But yes, a guy like Marcellus Hawkins, the name I mentioned, would love to see him stick around. I mean, the odds of him doing that are so low because who recruited him are the guys that are here. So if he can go find an opportunity somewhere else, take a red shirt where he came from a JUCO or D2 level football, he may be able to find that. And there's a lot of guys on this list, but like a Mason, he's already burned his red shirt. And then there's a few other guys that have done so as well. It'd be interesting to see what players take that opportunity again for UCLA and Virginia Tech because you're not going to be able to field a full roster because you have the whole limit this year of the 105, and there's no walk-ons. So whatever you had out of your 105, that's your roster. So there's a real concern. Now, again, there's a lot of older guys on this team. That's one thing that Tech has more than even UCLA is they have older players who probably won't leave because they can't. So we'll see what happens. Again, the performance extremely embarrassing. I'm going to leave it to the end of the video to talk a little bit about what I think the future could look like, and kind of that's how we'll close this one. So I'll leave you a bit of a cliffhanger on that one, and we'll talk about that more towards the end. But again, ODU comes in and wins huge 45-26. Moving into our next one here, and this was probably the most important game that'll take place in the ACC for the first couple weeks of the season for sure. Georgia Tech gets a massive win at home over Clemson in one of the most impressive fire drill field goals I've ever seen. 21 seconds on the clock. Georgia Tech knows we don't have time to run a spike because it's fourth down, so they have to sprint the kicker on the field. Otherwise, you risk the chance of not getting it, and you don't even have an opportunity to win the game. And on top of all that, The kicker is kicking his career-long 55-yard field goal to win the game. This wasn't some freebie. This wasn't a 37-yarder, and the fire drill was the hard part. It was he had to run out there in 21 seconds, line up, and kick his career-long, and nails it. I mean, absolute ice in his veins. An unreal kick from that kicker. He will be the most popular man on campus behind Haynes King this week. Everybody's going to love that dude because you make that kick, and it is the exact opposite for some people, and that's the sore thing with football in general is you get the polar opposites and you get the super positives. Obviously, Haynes King again. This dude is unbelievable. I mean, there is real Heisman talk behind this player. If he doesn't miss a game last week, man, I don't know what his stats look like. He had 25 carries against a team that has three first round picks on their defensive line and in their backfield with their linebackers. I mean, this is unreal. There is no other player in the country that shows this level of grit and this ability to just, I don't know how he does it. I really don't. He takes shot after shot and just gets up and does it again. And it's exactly what this team needs because if you look at the rushing attack behind him, they didn't get going. It was Haynes King controlling this game once again. 211 through the air, 103 on the ground. Klubnik on the other side doesn't play great football again, and it's a real concern because other than Bryant Wesco on the outside, he doesn't have anything to go to. They have nobody getting open, and again, Antonio Williams being out early in the season has proved to be a massive issue for the Clemson offense, who relied on him heavily. And then Adam Randall gets it going on the ground in this one. He actually performed pretty well, 15 for 80 and a touchdown. And again, you see Wesco being an unreal target, 7 for 126 and a touchdown. I mean, he is their offense in the passing game, and it's it. And a guy like TJ Moore should be doing more, and they really desperately need Antonio Williams to return. We'll see what happens the rest of the season. I do think Clemson has a lot of ability. They can bounce back. Again, they have unreal talent on their defense. Like I said, three top first round potential picks. So I don't know what happens the rest of the year, but man, this game is so big for Georgia Tech. Dalton, your opinions here?
Yeah, I mean, this was just a Haynes King show, and that field goal was insane. I was a long snapper, and that's not easy. That's the thing you practice, like that's the end of your practice. That's you condition or not, you get that done, and to do that within how the short amount of time they have, because usually on those situations you have your kicker gets to just take his sweet time and just process the whole situation. But that you're just going, 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 and and anything can mess up. A bad snap, a bad hold, and that was also the record at Georgia Tech. That's the Georgia Tech longest field goal too.
I mean, it's
They've never had one that deep, that's crazy to me. That was how they happened.
yeah, and it's just so
Yeah,
impressive. I mean, again, it is so impressive from their kicker, from the staff in general, from the coaching staff. That is coached well that you're able to
it,
go out and do that in 21 seconds. That is coaching.
that's been practiced a lot. I promise that.
Exactly. And that's something that, like I said, Tech would never have done this because of their inability to do things correctly a lot of the time. And again, this kicker accounts for 10 of their 24 points. This dude is loved. Like, this dude did so much for their team. And again, the most important game probably Georgia Tech's had since I don't know when. That's how important this game was. So a huge, huge win from Georgia Tech.
I've also got something else to say. Kicker, you're welcome in Knoxville anytime if you want to be. I'm sure we can
Yeah,
give you a little bit of money.
we'll talk about that later
Yeah,
because there was some issues on the other end. As I said earlier, there are the polar opposites, and it did just so happen as in a game we'll talk about later. But Georgia Tech gets it done. I think they're the heavy favorites now to be in the ACC championship with whoever the other side is because if you look at the rest of their schedule, they don't play a Miami. They don't play. It just looks so good for them to be able to make that conference championship game, which was my pick at the beginning of the year. I was high on Georgia Tech. I think they're a potential playoff team, and they are able to prove it here with a big win over Clemson. Moving on to our next one here, another absolute thriller, and this is kind of a common theme this week, is all the games we talked about pretty much were really good football games. I mean, there was a lot of really good football games that if you looked at the schedule and just looked at the rankings of the teams playing each other, you just said, hey man, this is an unranked here, an unranked here. But you get an unreal performance from the West Virginia Mountaineers in what is probably their single most important game of the year, as I doubt they'll compete for a Big 12 championship. And they care about this one more than a Big 12 championship, maybe, anyways. But they go in, get a huge win at home against Pittsburgh. And this tradition that is playing at home in this series, it's you win. And me and you both picked against that because Pitt just looked like the far better football team. But you got to always remember, man, in rivalries, it doesn't matter how good you are. It really does not matter. You can go in and beat anybody when you play with the passion that you want to play with to beat them. Obviously, you see Eli Holstein on the other side for Pittsburgh, 22 for 37, 303 yards, a touchdown. If he doesn't have that interception on his resume there, it's a pretty good day. They don't get the run game going at all. As you'll see, Jules Goff and Desmond Reed both just really unable to get going. Part of it being that they were down and kind of they got up at points, then they would chase back, then WVU would go up, and then they'd have to chase back. Pittsburgh had to chase back to catch them. So just a really interesting game back and forth. On the other side, you see for West Virginia, quarterback goes 19 for 25, 192 and a touchdown. Pretty good game from him. And Scotty Fox Jr. here in his four attempts throws two interceptions. Really poor play from Scotty Fox there. I believe that's why they go to Jalen Henderson there. And again, this game goes into overtime. And West Virginia is just able to get it done. When it mattered, they were able to punch in a touchdown and finish it off. Obviously, the biggest part of this win, though, is Ty Edwards. 25, 141, three touchdowns on the ground. They were able to replace Jaheim White with an unreal performance from Ty Edwards. 100% getting the game ball in this one, and probably what will be, again, the biggest win West Virginia has this year, and the most happy their fan base can be is getting a win here. Dalton, your opinions on this one?
Yeah, this was just the backyard brawl being the backyard brawl. The home team wins. That's I don't know why I didn't think about that, but like in the recent years, it's every single time the home team picks, it usually takes it. And this Nico actually got a win this week.
Yeah, again, this is just another huge win for West Virginia early in the year. They did have that rough loss last week, and sometimes it's hard to bounce back from those kinds of losses. But they were able to bounce back in a big way. Again, getting this victory, which, like I said, it means so much to West Virginia to be able to get this one done. Moving on to our next game here, South Florida on the road to Miami, and kind of what I was stating as the week was going on is just felt like they were running into a buzzsaw. I mean, it just Miami. I'm telling you, this Miami team is legit. They have finally built a defense. That was their big concern last year, is Cam Ward would have to score 40 plus points every week, and if they didn't, they lost, and that was a real thing. I mean, there was games they scored 35 points and lost. So you just can't do that. And with Miami going out and addressing their needs in the portal and making those huge, huge additions to that secondary, has created a real super team in the ACC. Carson Beck, again, you take away those two interceptions, which good play by USF is the one that is able to, cause those. Five of his, incompletions, two of them are interceptions. So he was pretty much unreal other than the two picks. So still finishes with a 91.4 QBR with two interceptions. That just proves how good his day was. 340 through the air. They run the ball extremely well. Mark Fletcher gets going on the ground, 16 for 120, two touchdowns from him. Beck is able to account for another one on the ground, so that's four touchdowns for him, two from Fletcher. Just really unreal offensive performance. They have probably one of the best offenses in the country, and their secondary looks really legit, which makes this team super scary. On the other side for South Florida, again, Miami knew what the plan was. They knew Byron Brown wanted to run the ball a ton. He gets 13 carries and results in two total yards on the ground. A lot of that being sack yardage taken off after them getting in the backfield. He doesn't do bad in the passing game, 20 for 36, 274 and a touchdown. Does have that interception. But when you eliminate South Florida's biggest threat on the ground and they don't have another threat on the ground, they're just able to kind of pin their ears back and go after him in the passing game. Chaz Nimrod has an unreal game for them, 4 for 128. I told you at the beginning of the year
Yeah.
that it looked like he could be that good for them. He was always open over the top, and they're just finally able to unlock it and hit it a couple times this game. But Keyshawn Singleton doesn't repeat what he did. And just overall, Miami completely outpowers them and just shows the muscle that is this Miami defense. And it is easily one of the best in the country so far. They were able to do that in one portal session, but just those drastic improvements has made this team really, really good. Dalton, your thoughts?
This Miami team is unbelievable. This Miami team's I think it's 1,000 times better than last year's. Like I hated on last year's a lot, and I don't see very many flaws on this team.
No, I mean, again, if you put this defense with Cam Ward last year, they are
Yeah,
easily one of the favorites to win the college football playoff championship.
yeah,
And part of that being, I don't even think Carson Beck is bad. I think he's looked really, really good. It's
yeah.
just Cam Ward had one of the best seasons that Miami quarterback's ever had. And if you put that with this defense, I just can't imagine what they would have been last year, and they're able to just kind of unlock that this year. Ruben Bain, unreal off the edge, one of the best edge rushers in the entire country, and you just saw that secondary able to again lock down this offense from South Florida. I still think South Florida has a really really good season ahead of them. I think they're going to end up being another 10-2, maybe even 11-1. If they are 11-1, that resume will probably get them in the playoffs because it's going to have those two huge wins to start the year, one of which is over one of the favorites in Boise State. So South Florida, they got to just kind of really eliminate this one from their mind. Don't even think about this game. Just kind of forget it happened and just focus on winning conference games and getting your spot in the playoff because you have a huge advantage over everybody else. Next game here, and this one is just an unbelievable performance from Ole Miss, where they have to bring in Trinidad Chambliss to take over at quarterback. A Ferris State transfer comes in and it goes 21 for 29, 353 yards and a touchdown in his first Division One FBS football game. He does that. And again, you thought Austin Simmons was going to lead this team. Trinidad Chambliss is just unreal performance from him. I mean, there is no what he accounted for a touchdown through the air, 62 yards on the ground, and two touchdowns on the ground. He single-handedly wins them this football game. If they don't have him, they will lose this game to Arkansas, who put up a really, really good battle against them. Of course, Taylor Green, I told you he's one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the entire country. Goes 305 through the air, 115 on the ground, with a touchdown through the air and a touchdown on the ground. He pretty much tried to carry his team, but Trinidad was able to carry his just a little bit better. And again, you look at the statistics. It is literally was just a QB duel and two super high-powered offenses that scored an unbelievable amount of points in the second quarter of this game. Both defenses went in at halftime and just kind of figured things out and got this one to where it was a little bit more competitive on the defensive side. But again, you expect that when you watch Lane Kiffin coach. He every time he coaches, he scores a ton of points. He has one of the best offensive schemes in the entire country, and he's able to recognize quarterbacks that even from Ferris State fits his system and will work. And again, he has perfectly picked out another quarterback, and this is the backup this time. It's not even the starter. What do we expect for Ole Miss the rest of the year? I don't know about this defense, but their offense, with no matter who's behind the helm, is going to score a ton of points. Dalton, your thoughts?
Yeah, always the question was with Lane Kiffin is does he have a defense? His offense is always excellent, but his defense is always lackluster. And you kind of just look at this team because like last year they were very good behind Jackson Dart, and Jackson Dart's a stud. He found him the same way,
Yeah.
and you think that this Ole Miss team is very good, but so is this Arkansas team. I like this Arkansas team a lot, especially for the rest of the season.
Yeah, this doesn't scare me off Arkansas. I wouldn't. I will think that there's a lot of games this year. We'll probably end up talking about Arkansas, and I would pick them to beat a lot of teams right now. The way they played this game, their defense obviously has to get stops against a backup quarterback, and that's going to be the biggest talking point. Is you were unable to get to him and make a difference, and you let him beat you in his first game. But again, I expect both of these teams to compete pretty good in the SEC. It's going to be really tough, and I do think Ole Miss they might be able to fight for that playoff spot. Starting out 3-0 and getting a huge win in your first SEC game is definitely a big deal. As again they start out with two big wins in the SEC because of that win against Kentucky last week. We'll see if maybe they're at the top of the standings after that because I don't think anybody else has played two SEC games and won them both. So I guess right now Ole Miss is your leader in the SEC. Moving on to our next game, what was another thriller. I mean, you're talking about the last four games, other than the Miami USF game, were all one score games that were very important for deciding, potential playoff spots later down the road. A&M able to get the biggest win of the season so far for them, easily, going on the road and beating number 8 Notre Dame, who becomes the first AP poll team to be ranked after week 3 or moving into week 3 or actually week 4 now. This would be their second game, so technically going into week 4 though as the rest of the season. They're ranked still at 0-2. Part of that being that they started the season inside the top 6, so they were expected to be very, very good. So that definitely helps, and that's the bias that comes with the AP poll. Is it's not based on just what you've done in the season; it's based on your preseason ranking along with what you do. Obviously, A&M wins this one on one of the craziest things to happen at the end of a game, and it's Tyler Buckner muffs the extra point snap. And so then Notre Dame would have been up by 7 and would have had the lead, where A&M wouldn't have been able to win the game. They'd have just been able to force overtime. And again, Notre Dame was playing really good in the back half of that game. And because he muffs an extra point snap, they lose this game by 1 point. And he is probably the single most hated person on campus. As we talked about the kicker earlier being the favorite guy. And really, I mean, it's one play, but it's the simple things. It's the don't drop an extra point snap. That's something that all he has to do is just go out there and make that happen. And they will be in the overtime of this game. And again, they were playing good. They had the run game established. You probably see them win that game when they're at home. And dropping that one is just so big for them because they don't have a schedule that's really all that playoff promising the rest of the way. This was one of their most important games in Miami, and they drop them both. So they needed to win one of those two, and if they lost again somewhere down the line, you can maybe argue it. But I mean, if they don't go 10-0 and dominate some teams, I could see them missing the playoff after making a national championship run last season. On the other side, A&M, of course, Marcel Reed looks really good in this game. The completion percentage is not great at all, but he still throws for 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, and also kind of gets his legs going a little bit, which is one of the best things about him is his dual threat ability. But the biggest talking point is Mario Craver, who just so happens to throw himself in a Heisman conversation over 400 receiving yards in the season, and this one goes 7 for 207 with an 86-yard long. Just an unreal performance from him. He's probably one of the best receivers in the country, and a name that I don't think a lot of people were looking for when you named top tier receivers in college football. Dalton, what's your opinions here?
Yeah, this was a crazy game, and it's all to the one thing that you practice. These special teams guys are probably practicing 400 and 500 times a day. During these practices, that's all you sit and do as a specialist. I've done it, and you sit there and do it
Yeah.
because in these games like that, you can't have mistakes like that happen. And that's what I love about college football. Stuff happens, and that's the best part about it.
Yeah, and again, if you were watching this one late down the stretch, what ends up winning this game for A&M is a 4th and goal from the 11-yard line where they run the little tight end delayed route, and he's their blocking tight end. He was clearly not the target on the play. He was just kind of a last-ditch effort. And Marcel Reed just throws up a 50-50 ball, and the tight end boxes out the linebacker and goes up and catches it to win the game. And it's just like after all that happens, and you know that Buckner's sitting over there basically terrified if they lose this game that everybody's going to be pointing the finger at him. And he's sitting there thinking, okay, we're fine. It's 4th and 11. There's no way our defense gives up this. And especially not to the blocking tight end on the backside of the formation. So it's just really, really bad loss for Notre Dame at home. And again, I just don't see a way that this team makes the playoff without something crazy happening because they just don't have a great schedule after this. And their two biggest games end up being losses. Giving a little bit of a shout out to Jeremiah Love and Jarian Price as they did get the ground game going better in this one. And actually, Price with the 2 touchdowns had a little bit better day. And they just still. They have to be able to find ways to run the ball better. And again, these averages are not amazing. Again, Jeremiah Love, a guy last year who was averaging well over 5. So you got to see them get going. And again, I think their schedule favors to them being 10-2 at the end of the year. But it's just, will it be enough? And I don't know right now if it will be. Moving on to our next game here, it is the Florida Gators going on the road to LSU. And Dalton, we talked about it last week. We said DJ Lagway is not ready for this level of college football. The injury last year really set him back. He's already still a very young player, and there's mistakes that are going to happen. But when Billy Napier ends up getting fired, which I think will happen for this Florida team, where does Lagway go if he doesn't stick here? Because the performances he's putting on the field don't really lead to him getting that great of an offer outside of Florida. I mean, 5 interceptions is the single reason you lost this football game. You can't do that. I mean, that is horrible. I mean, there is probably no worse performance all week from any player, much less when they had multiple opportunities. I mean, LSU kept trying to give them chances, but I think at the same time, LSU knew that if we just play stout defense, we're going to force them into a stupid turnover. And another statistic that is absolutely insane for Florida is that DJ Lagway's 5 interceptions isn't even close to the record that they have in a single game. They had a quarterback throw nine in a game one time. So Lagway played bad, but golly, he didn't play that bad. So whoever that was, I'm assuming didn't make it very long in college football or in football in general. But again, Lagway, 33 for 49, 287. They did try to keep forcing the ball even when he wasn't successful passing it. So I don't know. I don't know what you expect out of Florida going forward. I think Jaden Ball's their best player and he touches the ball 10 times. So it just they just mishandled this game. They poorly coached, and again, I think that's why Napier will be out the door as soon as they can get him out of here. On the other side, for Nussmeier, he didn't do a great job at really, pushing forward in his Heisman contingency. I think he's probably dropped down the list now a little bit. I do think that this performance is still not bad from him. 15 for 27, 220, a touchdown, and interception. But when you're a Heisman favorite quarterback, you've got to dominate in games like this, especially at home where you're getting a ton of opportunities due to the other quarterback throwing you the ball more than he's throwing it to his teammates. So they just, again, they get things done. They are really well rounded on both sides of the ball. And once again, it proves that even when the quarterback isn't having a Heisman performance, they're able to go out and win 20 to 10 over an SEC opponent. Dalton, what sticks out to you here?
Yeah, this was a terrible game by DJ Lagway. I said I'm going to double you on that. I don't think he's ready, and I hated how all these people were like hyping him up. It was kind of remind me of a guy that played at Alabama last year, Jalen Milroe. Everybody hyped him up so much that all these Heisman talks, and didn't even do anything the year before. Like really, he didn't do very much at all.
Yeah, he wasn't even able to finish the season.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I mean, again, when he was on the field, he was a
he
different.
looked good, but like you can't judge him off of that, especially when you're going into Death Valley. That's when you really see what's going to happen, and that's a tough place to play. And that, honestly, what LSU didn't look the part. That's the crazy thing. Florida probably could have won this ball game.
Yeah, they could have. Yeah,
Yeah,
again, when your quarterback gives the ball away five times, you are pretty much throwing the game away because LSU
yeah,
did try to give it to him. But again, part of what LSU was doing is once they figured out that this idiot's just going to keep throwing the ball to the other team, they're like, well, we just keep playing field position and just keep getting the ball back and just
and
chewing.
they were awful balls too. Like they were
Yeah, I mean,
like
he threw the
not
last
tip
one he
balls. No, they
threw.
were awful.
The last one he threw to lose the game, which was the last opportunity they really had to go down and score some points, was just way overthrown into triple coverage. I mean, it
Yeah,
wasn't even close.
yeah.
Just
You're talking
complete,
about the post, right? The post route
just
they
awful
was throwing.
left and
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it
Awful.
was awful. Yeah.
Caden Durham has a really good game for LSU, 15 for 93. Really promising so far to start the year for the sophomore running back. And that's something they have to get going is that ground game. So with him doing that, they get even stronger as an offense. Aaron Anderson is the lead receiver for LSU this week as expected. And again, their defense just plays out of their mind. 3 sacks, 5 TFLs, 5 interceptions, two from Deshaun Spears. So just overall, really, really great performance from LSU's defense. We talked about how good they are on both sides of the ball, and that's why I truly think that they might be the best team in the country. Is just they have the dynamic quarterback, and when even he didn't have a great game, they're able to be an SEC opponent. And even though it's 2010, it really wasn't that close because every time they had a chance, they just turned the ball over. So I do think this is probably one of Napier's last games as the Florida head coach. And I think looking forward, this is really promising for Brian Kelly's LSU team as they look to be a national championship contender this season. Moving on to our next one here, as the Vanderbilt Commodores go into South Carolina's stadium and whoop their hind end. I mean, it was a blowout, and it was probably because of the fact that Lenora Sellers gets knocked out of this game, and I mean seriously gets knocked out of the game. He goes down and has a serious injury to his head. I don't know if it's a concussion. I don't know what his ruling will be for future weeks. But that is a serious thing because they don't have the best backup quarterback situation ever. Their backup quarterback went on to be the starter at Wake Forest. So they're pulling Luke Dottie into this game, who again was a receiver commit out of high school, listed as an athlete. Now playing their quarterback position and obviously not playing it super great. 18 for 27 with an interception, only 148 yards. As you can see, Lenoris did have his interception on the day, but besides that, he was 6 for 6 for 94 yards. So he was playing pretty good, and they were in a close football game until he went down. And after that, it was pretty much just game over. I mean, Vanderbilt But again, Sellers plays pretty good while he's in the game, but without him, they were clearly not the team that they are with him. They were a top 10, top 11 team ranked wise with him. Without him, they are, I don't even know if this is a ranked football team if they have to play football games without Norris Sellers. So on the other side for Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia plays really well again, 18 for 25, 177. Doesn't really get going on the ground, which is really, it's kind of insane that this score is as big as it is whenever he did nothing on the ground and they truthfully didn't have much of a run game at all. It was just one big play by Lassiter and then Pavia being able to move it through the air and the two interceptions, turnovers being a big issue for South Carolina in this one. Again, you go down and look at the statistics on the other side for South Carolina's rushing game. Raisel Faison has a pretty good game, 15 for 74. Like I said, if he gets going at some point this year, he was a 1,000-yard rusher at Utah State, so he has a lot of ability. He's very talented, but I don't know what to expect out of South Carolina without Sellers playing. If he's rolled out for more than a couple weeks, this team could probably fall off the map and pretty much end their SEC hopes to play in the conference championship or even the playoff. Dalton, what's your thoughts here?
This Vanderbilt team's very good. I still think they're getting a little bit of shade thrown at them by the committee,
Yeah.
and I think that they are ranked, but they should be ranked a lot higher than what
Yes.
they are.
I think they're
And
20th. They're,
because this team is very good, and this is
yes.
that same. It's almost the exact same team as they had last year, and you see what that team last year could do.
Yeah.
They lost a few close games, but that team was good, and
Yeah.
this team is very good still. And I wouldn't be surprised if you come towards, I guess towards the end of the season, they play us. It's going to be a good game, I would imagine.
Yeah, and again, they just play very, very gritty.
Yeah.
They're just their offensive line finally looks like an SEC offensive line too. That's the big deal with this team. That's why this team is better than it was last year, in my personal opinion, is they went out and added guys that look like SEC offensive linemen. And you know what I mean by that. These guys are 6'6", 315 pounds of pure muscle instead of
Yeah.
having the small offensive lineman that they had last year. So when you're able to go out and add that and just create that dynamic where you were already a really good running team. I mean, they're probably, I don't know, there's arguments they were the best rushing team in the SEC last year. They pretty much relied solely on the run game, and they're able to go out and add that on their offensive line. Again, I expect Pavia to have a really good season. He's played great so far. They're coached extremely well, Jerry Kill being the biggest part of that coaching staff. And when they get things going through the air, it's to Eli Stowers and Martel Height, the dual threat player, of course, playing both ways. Has a really good game this one also, 4 catches. And when you're playing every snap on defense and you're the most important player on that defense, you can come out and make a difference on offense as well. It definitely will get people talking. Nick Harbor plays pretty good. He's actually been able to kind of catch the football a lot better this year. Makes him a better target, obviously. If he can't catch the football, he's nothing. So it's all about what will happen with Norris Sellers. If he's healthy and he's able to go, I think this team is still scary. I think that with him, they were going to be in this game and it was going to be a dogfight because it always is. When Vanderbilt plays, they're going to stay in the game. They just will. They are so resilient and they don't lose yards. They just don't. They don't get sacked. They don't take TFLs because their offense is just so good at just being in positive situations. And without penalties, they're really, really hard to stop. So I expect a lot out of Vanderbilt moving forward. And without Lawrence Sellers, who knows what the Gamecocks can do this year. Moving on to our next one here, one of the biggest games for a non-power school this season. Like I said earlier, I think USF has the early lead. Tulane might be saying, "Hey, we want the early lead. We want to be talked about in that conversation because they're 3-0 with wins over power schools, and also they go into conference play with the opportunity to go 12-0 and go and win a conference championship and be 13-0. And if they're 13-0, they will be the college football representative from the group of five, especially because they have a power four transfer quarterback. And he's played really good. I mean, he was great at BYU last year. He was everything they needed to be their starting quarterback. He has 17 carries for 111 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. Now, he was able to rush the ball when he was at BYU last season. He wasn't rushing for 4 touchdowns in a game. He also adds on 245 yards through the air on only 15 completions. I mean, Jake Retzlaff dominated in this game. He was
Mhm.
easily the best player on the football field. And on the other side, Darian Mensah plays really well. 30 for 51, 313, 3 touchdowns, does have that interception. I'm telling you, man, Tulane probably thought we lost one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Jake Retzlaff has come in and been able to produce really, really good production for them on the offense, and they really haven't slowed down. That was kind of the worry was would they slow down? And it's funny because Retzlaff is able to replace Mensah in the passing game, but he's also able to replace Mekhi Hughes in the rushing game. So, Tulane's two best players go out and leave, and they just go grab one guy to be the rushing replacement and the quarterback replacement. So, again, this team with Retzlaff is very, very scary. Dalton, your thoughts?
Yeah, Darian Minsay, that guy's a stud. Like he really is. And you'd think Tulane losing a guy like that, and they got a better quarterback in Jake Kretzlaff, and he showed himself here.
Yeah, and I think that Tulane has a really strong chance to be the Group of Five representative this year in the college football playoff. I think that that's where they've wanted to be in last year. They were good enough to do that. They have a really good head coach. They have a good roster built, and they're one of the teams in the Group of Five that is able to replace talent each and every season. And again, they have the talent across the board. This is going to be a really, really good team. I expect that once again that John Summerall will have them playing great football. I expect he will be coaching in the SEC probably next year. There's a real chance he can take that Ole Miss job if Lane Kiffin wants to go down to Florida because that's a big rumor. But also, if Florida opens up and he just wants to go down there and be Florida's coach, I think they'd be more than happy to take him in and give him SEC money, which he'll be more than happy to accept after his success at Tulane. Going on to our next game here is the Georgia Bulldogs taking on the Tennessee Volunteers in Neyland Stadium. And of course, this one was a really, really back and forth football game. Tennessee comes out and lights them on fire. I mean, I've never seen a Georgia defense get lit up that bad in a first quarter. I think Joey Aguilar once again proves that he is the answer for Tennessee. And although he does make mistakes in this game, he did have one really bad interception. But other than that, the other one wasn't that bad. It just a poor read, and it happens. People make mistakes, and when you're playing Kirby Smart in Georgia's defense, you're going to make mistakes because Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football. He's able to put his defense on the field in the right places where they can make the big time plays. On the other side for Georgia, Gunnar Stockton plays really, really well. 23 for 31, 304, two touchdowns, no mistakes, a 93.4 QBR. And again, the question mark was always what can Gunnar Stockton do through the air because we know what he can do on the ground. And he probably played his best game of his career in this one. He was able to hit the big time throws when it mattered. He hit a huge fourth down completion towards the end of that game that was the single best throw that was made in that game, and both quarterbacks were playing really well. So whenever you're able to say that about a guy in this one, you know he made a great throw. Nate Frazier is able to get it done on the ground as well, 14 for 73. And on the other side for Tennessee, they ran the ball pretty well. Star Thomas, 9 for 60. Bishop, 15 for 54. And even Peyton Lewis's short amount of carries, he was able to make plays when he was getting out there. Again, I think that both of these teams show that they're really good. I think that both of these teams prove they can be true competitors in the SEC this year. And I think there was really question marks for both of them. The big thing being what would they do at quarterback, but also with Georgia, it was kind of what were these receivers going to do? Because they brought in a lot of receiver talent, but with the drops they had last year, if that happened again, nobody's going to succeed. So that was definitely a big question mark. I think that Georgia's receivers were making a difference in this one. Colby Young on the outside. I don't know how you guard that guy. He's 6'4" or 6'5", and he can just kind of make any play on the outside. And then Zachariah Branch might be the single fastest player in college football. So when you got him coming out of the slot, there was a couple fourth down plays he made where they just couldn't stick to him. He's too fast. You can't beat him when he runs a quick slant. And if you don't have a linebacker helping over the middle in any kind of man coverage, he's just going to beat you. So I think that the receiving core proved to be really good for Georgia. But the same is to be said on Tennessee's side. Chris Brazzell had an unreal game, man. He made some plays that will be SC top 10 plays. The catch he made over the middle, just unbelievable, man. He is clearly the lead target on this team. And they had another guy go for nearly 100 yards, and Braylon Staley, 9 for 97 and a touchdown. Tennessee definitely has a lot to look forward to as the season goes on. And when they can get healthy and get Jermon McCoy back on the outside as well as Ricky Jackson on the outside, this team is going to get better. They're going to be able to stop the passing game just a little bit better. And truthfully, all they needed in this one was bug eyes to not miss a kick. And Dalton, I'm going to let you rip on him because I know that you hate he did that, but for real, they played a good football game. I know you're not as upset as you would be usually with a loss.
Yeah, no, this one came down to it, and I shouldn't expect. I mean, it is what it is.
A
He
curse.
missed a kick. What?
It's a curse.
Oh, it is. Yeah, but like. I mean, it can go either way. It is what it is. I'm very, very excited for the rest of the season, even though this game ended up like this, because I love seeing great offensive production against a Georgia team like this.
Yeah.
And I honestly am very like happy. Even though we lost, I'm very excited to see what the rest of the season holds. And also, I want to give props to Gunnar Stockton because I did not think that guy was
Yeah.
as good a quarterback as he was. And the fourth down you were talking about, that really impressed me. Like it really did. Gunner's playmaking ability was excellent in this game, and so was Joey Aguilar.
Yeah.
He is what we needed at Tennessee, and he fits our offensive scheme so well. He reminds me of a lot of Hendon Hooker, like the way he processes reads. He had two errors against the Georgia team
But
that's going to happen. You're going to expect that, and the ability to just command the offense like he did was amazing. I was very pleased,
yeah.
and I like just the way it just everything went. Air defense struggled a little bit, but there was points when the air defense was crazily good against this very high powered offense in Georgia.
Yeah, and again, if they're getting this kind of passing ability from Gunnar
Yeah,
Stockton, this is one of the best offenses in the country.
yeah.
They have a legit elite receiving core on the outside. They are so hard to stop. When he can throw for 300 yards and nobody's over 100 because they're able to spread the ball around. I mean, London Humphreys is another prototypical slot receiver for them. They're able to kind of just create those guys that are really good in short space. And in this one, it wasn't really even short space. He made big plays. Lawson Lucky, Oscar Delp, unreal at the tight end position. They always have great tight ends. It just seems to be a theme for them. And then Dylan Bell, who's maybe their best receiver last season, has been pushed down the chart to being the fifth guy on this board. So they just made up so much ground in the offseason with what they were able to do through the portal. As you see with Tennessee, there really was some mistakes here and there that they made. Able to recover a fumble from Stockton, the one mistake he did make in this one. And then you look at defensive statistics, and really Tennessee looked better with the 3 sacks and the 6 TFLs. Kind of able to get after Stockton a little bit, make some plays in the backfield, and just try to change the game. And once again, like I said, Tennessee needs to make kicks at the end of the game, and they don't have to worry about overtime. So just once again, it shows you that they should have won this game. Not just did they not win, they
Yeah.
should have won. Again, I think it was like a 42 yard,
43, 43
43. Okay, I
on
knew
the
it
left
was.
hash.
It is a kick that every single high level kicker should be able to make.
I could go
Except
pull a guy from a high school team, and
right,
most of them will make that.
there's a lot of those guys that can make, and I get it.
Yeah,
The pressure was probably at an all time high. I mean,
yeah.
he's not
Oh, it definitely was. Yeah,
that kind of game where you want to break an 8 year curse of losing to Georgia, and he just pulled it. He missed it, and again, it wasn't really close. And you go into overtime, and you think this is it. We're going to be able to pull it off there, and Georgia just is able to out operate them in the overtime session. Just able to get things done at a higher rate. And again, that's just the experienced coaching, and that's just Kirby being the best coach in college football. Just being able to get things done. Once again, I think Aguilar looked really, really good. He finishes with an 86 QBR. And I think there's a real world where you could argue that Joey Aguilar is in Heisman contention.
Heisman. Yeah, I think he is. Honestly, I think he's. Yeah,
If especially if he got his legs going just a little bit more in this one, a lot of that being them getting in the backfield and making plays, but also you just didn't see him scramble a lot. It's definitely something he can do because you saw it on the very first drive. He got out and used his legs
yeah.
to touch. But again, I think Tennessee and Georgia both have a lot to look forward to. I think there's a real world where both of these teams finish inside the top 15 at the end of the year. Tennessee, when they get healthy, they're going to be better on the outside. And Georgia, man, this team is just so, so good. There's a real argument that they're even better than they were last year, and they were a constant threat last season with Beck even having the season he was having. So I don't know what else to expect out of these two teams the rest of the year. I don't know how that Tennessee and Georgia will fare as the year goes on. I know Tennessee has some really tough ones down the line that you're talking about that are going to probably be even more important than this one because how much you hate the team you're playing. But
Yeah.
also Georgia, they look like they're able to get things done on the road in one of the toughest environments, if not the toughest in the SEC. So just all props to them, all props to Tennessee for coming out and playing this well without their 2 stars on the outside. Moving on into the end of this episode, I did bring up that I would talk a little bit of Virginia Tech and what they might do at the coaching position, as that is probably the biggest thing we have to talk about the rest of the year for Tech. They don't have the roster talent, and when they lose some players to the portal potentially, they're going to get worse. So I don't see us winning many more football games. We should win next week. That should be a freebie because Wofford is 0-3 in the FCS, so they're as bad as we are, but in the FCS. So you drop that one, I think they might just fire everybody and quit as the year, just forfeit the season if you lose that one. But I do think the coaching candidate is going to be extremely interesting because the BOV meeting that is supposed to occur at some point in September, September 30th seems to be the date that they've locked in. That vote is going to try to extend Virginia Tech's funding to their athletic department as a whole, which of course would lead to more funding for football. The number that's been floated would be going from 144 million to 200 million. And if you had $200 million, that puts you on the same level as a majority of the Big Ten. And you obviously know what the Big Ten does when it comes to winning national championships and also their ability to recruit. You see that again, the SEC and the Big Ten draw the biggest recruits every single season. And Tech could kind of put themselves in that atmosphere of, hey, we're already producing crazy good fan base. We're already able to produce the history of what we had. And if you can get a coach out there that just is able to understand football at the highest level of being just a head coach, because once again, I think Pry was able to establish the culture. I think he was able to recruit at a decent level. We had a really good portal class, but I think that he just is unable to coach on the field. He just doesn't have it as a head coach. I think he'll end up being a DC somewhere again, unless he's done coaching because the buyout is $6 million. So if he wants to hang it up, he can. But I don't know. That's the interesting part with Tech. But it comes to head coaching candidates. One of the biggest names being floated, of course, is going to be Mike Vick, and that's because of the potential to pull the whole Deion Sanders movement, which is just go get a big time name, hire your OCs and DCs, and let them run the team, and let him be the recruiter. He would be basically a GM at the head coach position. Now, there's a lot that comes with being the head coach. You got to be able to know the game and manage the game, but when you're talking about a quarterback, that's one of the best positions on the field that knows the game. He has to know offense and defense to play quarterback. So that's going to be a name floated. I personally don't know if you should do that because he's only coached 1 year as a head coach and he's only, what, 3 games in, 4 games in.
Yeah.
That one would be really interesting. It would be kind of having to surround him with a really old and kind of has done that staff. So you'd have to go get an OC that's coached for a long time and a DC that's coached for a long time so that they can control the offense and defense and let Vic, again, just be that recruiter is what he would potentially be. Again, I don't think that happens, but if he does happen, it would come at a discount because there's rumors he would take a pay cut, and that would leave you a lot of money to pay those OCs and DCs. And then once again, you look at the other options. That's going to be the more realistic options, in my opinion, would be, an Alex Golesh, which is the USF head coach. If you were able to pull him in here and him be the head coach for the future, he turned USF around really quick. That would bring Byron Brown with him, and that's where you would have a real chance to compete next season. That's one of those options, and again, that would be awesome. Yeah, it just obviously, as soon as we can be good again, it would be great. But obviously, that one seems like a potential. John Summerall is the head coach at Tulane. I think he's taking a bigger job, but I do think that from what I'm hearing, I saw a CBS report this morning when Pry was fired. They said that there's been a lot of interest in this job before the season even happened because they all thought Pry was going to get fired anyways. So apparently there's a lot of on those lower levels, a group of five coaches that want this job. So that's a great thing to hear is that there's actually still people out there that want this job. And I think some of that could be the expected increase in money because they think that they're going to have an opportunity to coach at Tech where it's, again, a winnable conference, but also you're in a good location when it comes to recruiting because you have the Virginia recruits who I think perennial, definitely Virginia is a top 10 state when it comes to football recruiting.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah,
The
it
time they
is.
end up being in the top five when it comes to the
Yeah.
kids that come out of here. So you have a really good ground to build on. And then the name that seems kind of likely out in the state would be going and getting Bob Chesney from JMU. And he's got a really good coaching career so far. You see what he's building at JMU. They are able to win even after Signetti left and took his whole team with him. So he would probably bring some recruits with him. He would bring that area with him up here, and maybe that changes something. And then another name, of course, is going to be ODU's head coach and Ricky Rain or Ricky Ron. I can't remember how you pronounce it, but he would bring Colton Joseph with him, and that would be a legit get. But again, I'm not as high on that one. And then the names that are kind of crazy and the ones that are fun to mention is Dan Mullen, coming over and coaching. Of course, he's at UNLV for the first year back from being a broadcaster. And if you remember Dan Mullen at Florida, he had a lot of success, just had one really bad stretch, and it got him fired. Another name that's obviously going to be floated and very easily could happen with the money being right is Shane Beamer. And that's kind of the name that you hear and you say, obviously, you know what the Beamer name comes with Virginia Tech. It is his dad being the single greatest coach to ever grace the school. With the money being right, and again, with him wanting to return to the area, one of the biggest things that people like to say to counter that idea is on the SEC interview he did, he said, I want to build my own path or pave my own path. I don't think I'd necessarily take that route. But if you're on the SEC network, why would you say I want to coach in the ACC? You would say I'm good where I'm at. I don't want to leave. You wouldn't say I want to leave and go to that wouldn't happen. Otherwise, the South Carolina fans would hate him. I can't imagine if my own head coach said, "Yeah, I don't really want to be here. I want to be."
Well, he kind of did.
But I think that if that happens, he wouldn't say that. He just wouldn't. So that one, and then obviously the other big name is John Gruden and Dalton.
Yeah, well, that's the one I got. That's the one I've got to
I know
say.
you
I
love
would love
John
it.
Gruden, but
I
before
love
the
that guy.
season started, that we obviously sent him over. He gets the apparel packages from every team. That's kind of been the big thing. And Tech sent him over like 4 boxes worth of stuff. It was the most stuff he got from anybody. We sent him all 3 helmet colors. We sent him. I mean, like we buttered him up a little bit to see if he wanted to come back and coach because there's definitely the rumor that he wants to, and I think he almost confirmed it. But also, the night after receiving all that stuff, he goes online and posts. He said, "Hey, Pra, he said like I'm down here in Tampa, Florida," and he said, "But man, would I love to come back and coach some football." And he was like, he said, "I love Coach Pry. I hope everything works out for him." He said, "But man, if something goes wrong," he said, "you know where I'm at." And it was like, I mean, was he just writing in that he's going to be the next guy? So I think that there's definitely a world where that happens, and who knows what John Gruden would bring to you? I have no idea because it's not like Bill Belichick. He doesn't have 6 Super Bowls, but he is, widely liked. He was a very good coach for the time
He's a great quarterback coach too.
he was able to win a Super Bowl,
Yeah.
which is a big deal. I mean, having that level of championship means you know what you're doing as a coach. And obviously, he comes with the past that he had, but a lot of people have forgiven him for that and said, again, they're honest mistakes and things that he himself has went in and said, "I'm sorry for. I hate that I did what I did." But again, he's able to make up for that. He's obviously in a positive light now. And again, he's a coach that's been floated to be really anywhere. I mean, there's some rumors that heck, if they were firing DeBoer at Alabama, he might take that job.
There was also a rumor of him going to Tennessee. I heard that
Yeah.
too.
And again, I think he just wants to coach so bad that he's in rumors everywhere. So I think that could happen. And then the obvious one that I'm gonna say just for fun, that is like 0.0001% is we call up Nick Saban and say, "Hey, we got 10 million. Come on down and coach."
Oh no, it'd take a lot more than 10
No,
million. He's making a lot more than that.
10 is the baseline for getting a big time head coach right now. I mean, there's only 6 guys in college football making 10, and if you offered him 10, which I don't think, again, he doesn't want to do all the recruiting and all that. He doesn't want to.
He
So
hates it. Yeah, he hates
he
that.
wants to just come in and coach
Yeah.
defense. That's what he wants to do. So, but again, if you had Nick Saban, I mean,
Everybody would come to
there's
you.
a 1,000% chance that the Virginia recruits would go to Virginia Tech. So that obviously is not happening. I just said it for fun because this is a fun podcast. And I said something because I want it to be fun. But again, if you're asking me, as of today, who do I think is the most realistic options? I think that Shane Beamer is really a realistic option because of the history and because Tech might actually have some real money. And if we were cleared for 200 million, that actually is more money than South Carolina gives to their athletic department, which means we'd have more to offer him as a head coach. I think that could play a big part. Obviously, Frank is clearly a legend here, and Shane would immediately be accepted if that happens. I think Alex Golish is a real name to watch. And I think Bob Chesney is a real name to watch, coming over from JMU. And then a couple other names that have been floated. I don't know. I don't really know much about is Charles Huff, who of course was rumored to be wanted anyways a couple years ago. And then Jamie Chadwell, which is the coach up at Liberty. Now they are struggling this year, so I don't know how much of that you would really want after a struggling season. Other than that, that's pretty much it. If you guys have any names you think could be the guy, put them in the comments. That'd be really fun to just have a talk in the comments about who do you think could potentially be the next coach. And obviously, Same thing goes for on the West Coast with UCLA. I don't know who that coach could be. I've not really looked into it because I've got my own coaching to look into. I'm just hoping for a big time hire because Tech is a very dormant powerhouse in the ACC. I mean, they are. There was a stretch from when we joined the ACC till 2011. We were the best team in the ACC. We won four of our first seven ACC championships and haven't returned. Well, we've returned, but we haven't won since. So there again is a lot of potential to go out and do that. It's just make the right hire and clear the athletic department to be able to spend some money on football because that's what the world is of college football now is do you have the money that can produce and provide for your football team as the rest of the country is doing currently. So obviously that'll do it for this week's episode. One of the biggest, most important episodes when it comes to just our recaps. Our picks are usually our, more fun videos where we talk a little bit more because we're actually, making the pick and talking about the next game. But this one has a lot of information because Tech is in probably it sucks the way it happened because obviously you don't want that to happen, and I like Pry. But what happened might have been good for the program. It might have finally woke somebody up and said, "Hey, do you realize how bad you have gotten? How downhill it has went over the last 7 to 8 years?" So hopefully this fixes things. Hopefully we go out and make the right decision. Hopefully we go out and make a good decision as a coach and an AD combo. And who knows what this program can turn into. It sucks it ain't going to happen when I'm here, but I still got to go and experience it as a student, and I still loved every second of it. I'll never not be a Tech fan. But if I told you it wasn't difficult the last couple of years, I'd be lying to you, especially the
Yeah,
leading into the last couple of years, including the 0-3 start this year. Dalton, whatever you're going to add on, this is your chance here, but
yeah, I've struggled a lot through. As a Tennessee fan, I know where you're at.
yeah,
I went through those terrible seasons, went through all the head coaches that you didn't know was going to happen, and Butch Jones is the one I always turn think about. I hated Butch Jones, could not stand Butch Jones, but I will say he did beat Georgia. He did
yeah,
do that, but it really wasn't him. But he beat
it
Georgia,
was the team.
and he had Josh Dobbs, and I love Josh Dobbs.
Yeah.
That's probably my second favorite Tennessee quarterback of all time. And I don't know. I feel you there. I went through a lot of those with Tennessee, but I'm finally figuring we're finally figuring things out. And I'm very excited for whatever it holds.
Yeah, and again, like you said, all it takes is the right coach. I mean, it really
Yep.
does. You can, again, your program has to have talent, and you got to be able to build through the program with the portal and the recruiting classes, but you have to start with the coach. That's the
Yep.
foundation. That's the guy that builds the culture, but also has the scheme to go out and win games, but also recruit to fit his scheme. And I think,
Yep.
again, Tennessee did such a good job this offseason of finding the quarterback that fits their scheme. That's why I think they're going to be good this year. But
Yep.
again, wrapping everything up, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, we love making the videos. It's really fun to just get to talk college football for fun. But obviously, I really appreciate the likes, the comments, and subscribers. We've gained a couple subscribers here over the last couple weeks. Had some new people coming in and watching and enjoying the content, so that's always great. And also, I do want to start my NFL talk with one of my buddies here soon. So that's probably going to come out maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not 100% sure on that yet. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to get to film it. So look for that coming out this week. So maybe having 3 video uploads every week. Going to be a lot of editing to do. I'm up for it. Obviously, what I want to do for a job when I get out of college. So exciting to go ahead and learn it and figure it all out now. And maybe I'll have a little evidence that I can do this when I get out of college and looking for a job, which is going to be soon. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us and peace.
Peace.